Hello, and welcome to the 10th episode of Creator Spotlight Season 2 from the Interface. Creator Spotlight is our series where we talk to creators about what they make and do and how they got started. This is actually going to be the last episode of Season 2, and we'll be back later this year for more episodes. Today I'm joined by Chris Minasians. I'm gonna completely butcher your last name. Chris Minasians.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Minasians, yeah, really close.
Minasians. Cool. Welcome, Chris. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me over, and shame to hear it's the last one from until the next season. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, this is done 20 episodes so far. It's been great to talk to people like yourself and people that make interesting stuff online. It's great to speak to people that do that sort of thing. It's great. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah. So for people who are not too sure who you are, what do you make and do online?
sure. I think there's a lot of people who have no idea what I do, to be honest with you. But yeah, so two-pronged approach, I guess. But my maybe what people know me more for is for my tech reviews. So I have a
Hmm.
channel called Totally Dubbed HD. So I focus on audiovisual products more than anything. So I've done 200 PC monitor reviews. I've done 500 audio related reviews. So soundbars, headphones, earbuds, yeah, all of that stuff. And I do a bunch of other tech as well. Like I've done, let's say, smartphones and laptops in the past and things. But generally speaking, audiovisual products is kind of my bread and butter, and it's what I really love doing. And then also aside from that, I know you've done it also recently with car reviews, which is awesome. But yeah, I have my own car publication called Totally EV. And that is a website, but is also present on all social media platforms. And funnily enough, I started a TikTok because of Totally EV, which I've just never done before. Not because I'm like an old guy, but more for the fact of like, I thought it would appeal to a different audience. So of course, we can talk about that later. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Totally EV focus on fully electric vehicles and hybrids, specifically plug-in hybrids more than anything. But like you've done the Honda Civic, for example, a review. Great.
Yep.
And that's not a plug-in hybrid. It's a bit of a different self-charging hybrid as such. So I still cover those
Oh
type
yeah.
of cars. So yeah, a bit of both
Yeah.
tech and cars, and both of them are on my own property. So yeah, I'm really fortunate to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's the one thing that goes hand in hand, I think, tech and
Yeah,
cars somehow. Like Rory Reid, the same sort of
yeah,
situation, and then I just got started doing tech stuff for the interface, so
yeah.
and then cars recently. So it's for some reason they go hand in hand. It must be because of the amount of tech in cars, or
Yeah.
not really sure.
Well,
But
funnily enough, when I was working, I used to work at Dennis Publishing, so they owned like Auto Express,
oh yeah,
Evo, and
yep,
all that jazz. And I used to work at Expert
yep,
Reviews and a sister publication called Alpha. So not to give them any promotion because that's a different story. But long story short, I was doing tech testing for Car Buyer and Auto Express as a
hmm
car journal. So as a tech journalist, sorry, not as a car journalist, because a car journalist, generally speaking, were kind of opposed to tech. No disrespect to them, but they generally didn't really understand tech all that well. Or for example, audio systems, they really didn't care that much. They're like, oh, it plays in sound, it works with DAB, or it works with radio, it works with your MP3, whatever it is. That's all well and good. We don't really know how good or bad it is. So that's why they drafted someone like myself to like try them out and test them out for someone who actually does review tech for a living. And that's actually how I got into reviewing cars, or testing cars, should I say. So yeah, it's I have seen a lot more of that transition, specifically tech people going into cars rather than the other way around, as in car people going into tech. Um,
hmm
and it seems to me more than anything, I think it's also because the willingness of car brands wanting to work with different types of people and attract also a different type of audience, from like your influencer who's doing like fashion or something, which has got nothing to do with a car, but I don't know. That's what car brands are looking at as well. But to people who are focusing on tech, and they're like, well, we've got a car full of tech from the ADAS, or from Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, or head-up display, or yeah, something like that, augmented reality, and then that's where like the link comes in. So that's why I think we've seen a lot of tech people doing car stuff as well, and also it's probably of interest. Not everyone drives a car, but a lot of people do, and more often than not, people are like, "Well, I drive a car. It'd be nice to test tech in car." So yeah. Anyway,
yeah, yeah, definitely. I noticed that one thing you do interestingly is every car you get, you do 2 videos. You do
Yeah,
the car review and they do an audio review as well,
yeah,
which I find quite interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
yeah, exactly that. Literally for the reason I just explained before.
yeah.
People don't focus on the audio system. And while I'm a car guy, I really love cars. One of the most important things that when you're sat inside the car is the comfort, and comes with the comfort from the seats to how the steering wheel feels to, I don't know, how the materials are finished, to how the tech is implemented and how the
Mhm.
audio system sounds. So again, as someone who's like reviewed 500 audio related devices, if not more than that, that's basically the playlist number I've got on YouTube, which says 500. So it's maybe a lot more than that. But anyway, I thought that when I was doing a review of a car, it would be silly not to cover the audio system because that's my speciality on the tech side. And yeah, and that's actually proved to be really useful. I know a lot of people don't do it. It could be due to expertise or the fact that maybe the return on investment for them as a business is not that much. But for me, I find it incredibly useful for consumers, and consumers have been appreciating it as well. And it's brought in a lot of traffic, both in YouTube or even on the website,
Yep.
because it's a niche. It's not contested in the slightest. You type in, I don't know, Tesla Model 3 audio, within the first 5 searches or 6 searches of Google, I'll be there, which is quite crazy to think that I'm a small creator and publication that's basically appearing sometimes number one on Google search,
Mm.
purely because no one else does it. And they could do it, but then I don't know how the quality of their reviews would be on that. Like if they were a car journalist reviewing the audio, which I've seen before, they'll just mention it sounds good. Great. So what settings do I use? How does it compare? Should I go for the upgraded option or not? So I don't know, but I'll let them decide that if they have a business decision of doing audio systems. But yeah, it is a bit of a niche, but I love it.
Yeah, that's definitely. I noticed with the. I actually drove the first Tesla ever. Like, I haven't driven a Tesla before. I drove a Model Y a few months ago. I was so impressed with how good the audio system is. Like, I don't know all the words to use, but it sounded incredible. So I was, yeah, definitely.
The thing is with me, which really surprised me with the Tesla, is the first one I got in was the Model 3, because at the time the Model S and the X were like discontinued as such. Tesla weren't seeding any loans of those cars, so I could get loaned if I
Right.
went via like a leasing company or something like that. But then some of these companies were quite shady in terms of how their operation. But so I was just like, I'm just
Mm.
going to go via the official channels. Anyway, so the first one was a Model 3, and it was a long range model, so it was the upgraded premium audio system. And it absolutely left me jaw dropped as to how good it was. And because a lot of companies pair up with like other companies, like for example, like Bowers and Wilkins, B&O,
Yeah.
Focal. It doesn't matter. Name most of the audio companies in the world. They usually have a car audio system. Um, what really took me by surprise is the fact that Tesla didn't have a branded audio system. It was just Tesla premium
Yep.
and non-premium audio system, and the premium one was absolutely incredible, and it got the highest rating on the site. I think still till this date, it's the second highest, only beaten by the BMW i7, which is a really expensive car with a couple of £1,000 Bowers and Wilkin audio system, and
Yeah.
that got a full 10 out of 10 basically, which is very rare for me to ever give. But yeah, the Tesla one was incredible, and for people coming in at that price point, you're literally going to have to spend a lot more money, as in like double to
Mm.
triple the amount of money if you want a similar audio system. Um, yeah, so whatever Tesla's done there is really impressive. And the fact they're not really shouting about it, which I think they should. And I've even told Tesla, I was like, you should really be shouting more about your audio system because it's actually very impressive. But
Yeah.
but they don't. So
Yeah. I listened. We had the car for a day and listened to some songs. It's like there's parts of the songs you've never heard before. Like just like parts of the music that it's just, oh, that sounds weird because you haven't heard them before. It's just it brings out the depth in the music somehow. So
exactly. Yeah, I think the depth is
yeah.
the biggest one for me. The soundstage as such. So you have the usually a lot of audio manufacturers, car audio manufacturers will position a lot of audio drivers at the front of the cabin. So you'll have loads at the
Yep.
front, but very little at the rear. Now you might think, oh well, there's usually only two people sitting in the car, for example. Even if you go just a singular driver, like I am, generally speaking, why would you care for the rear? Well, it's not just for your rear occupants, but it's also for you to have audio coming from the back, almost like from the headrest. So some manufacturers actually built them in via the headrest as well. They have speakers within the headrest to aid with that. And so, yeah, when you have that depth, that's when you have some really impressive audio. And the Tesla, for example, has integration of audio drivers at the rear and, you know, towards, I think, the B pillars, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they're really, really impressive.
Yeah.
And yeah, that just gives you that sense of like being at one with the music that you're listening to. And then obviously then you've got the separation, and when you've got good separation, it gives you that sort of like excitement when you're listening to music as well. So that combination probably led to your feeling being like, wow, this is really impressive in comparison to, let's say, the Honda Civic that you recently reviewed. That's borderline okay with the Bose audio system, but the stock audio system is actually pretty poor. But anyway, going on a tangent of audio.
Yeah. Well, we're going to mention audio as well. When I was looking at some of the channels you run on YouTube, I noticed there was you did dance videos at one point.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is actually quite funny because back at uni, I actually before uni, I watched like dancing films, like Step Up or whatever. I really enjoyed dancing. Funnily enough, I did. If you Google my name, I know that sounds really arrogant, but if you Google Christopher Minasians, you might actually even find an article on the BBC where they did a video of the science of dancing with your top body and your bottom body. And I did a silly video on that, and I sent it to the BBC, and then they had it on their like website, which was awesome. I was just like, okay, was not expecting that. But aside from that, I just really love dancing. Like I love it. When I went to uni, I was dancing 2 to 3 times a week. I really couldn't care about everything else when I was going out. I wasn't going out to mingle with people, well, other than my own friends. I was literally just going out to dance. And ever since then, I've just like tried to improve on my dancing. And the only way I've danced is like in front of a mirror, like at home, or sometimes a reflection on a window, if that makes sense, when you don't have a mirror. So I've never done like a dance class or anything like that. And it really shows when you look at my older footage, because it's horrific. But somehow people loved it when I was dancing in a club. But anyway, so yeah, as a result of that, I started a YouTube channel, a third YouTube channel at the time. And Totally Dubbed 2 was like a dancing channel. To be honest, I haven't posted on that for a long time. And the reason why is because purely because of copyright. So I used to get like copyrights on all the videos. YouTube's changed since then, so copyrights are less of an issue. They're still there, but you won't get monetized and all that stuff. So as a result, I just can't completely stop posting there. I probably should do like a mass post at some point. But anyway, I post now those videos on Instagram on a vertical format. And the way I've kind of said to myself is, instead of dancing at home in front of a mirror or on a carpet, let me dance in front of every car I get in for review. So almost every car, maybe apart from, at the moment, out of like 70, 80 cars that I've reviewed, maybe apart from like 5 or so, I have not danced in cars that I've got in for review rather than going to an event. And that's been a way of me like continue to practice dance. Like it gives me the excuse of continuing to practice and actually see myself, to see how like have improved or worsened, because I can even tell from myself like some of my moves are not as good as they used to be. But weirdly enough, some of those videos have actually been liked by the artists themselves and shared on their platform. So the best one I got was Neo. For those people who know Neo, it's like he did Closer, Miss Independent. Like he was like one of my favorite artists growing up. It still is one of my favorite artists. And he shared it on his Instagram, and this was like during lockdown, I think, and it was just madness. Like I was just like, "Whoa, what the hell?" And I had like some like really famous dancers like reach out. I think Popping John was one of my favorites, like pop lockers, and he like shared it and commented on one of my posts as well, because one of his songs he'd done inspired me to do a dance myself. So tagged him in it, and then he liked it and shared it and stuff. And it sounds so silly to like and share and all that stuff, but for someone like myself who's literally doing it for fun, for a dance, doing it seriously, then it's actually quite funny. And then ultimately that ended up having quite an interesting take with the manufacturers, because when I'd send coverage, I would send the coverage of like all the serious links, like written reviews, YouTube reviews. Now I do like shorts videos as well. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, here's the Instagram dance video. I haven't done that for a while because I just haven't been keeping on top with the coverage. So I don't want to wait to send the coverage just for the Instagram video. But initially when I was doing it, I had manufacturers like, like love it. They were just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Who knew like you did like a hardcore serious 4,000 written review and then you're doing a dance video in front of our car as well. So when I went to SMT, which you've been part of,
Yep.
so it's basically like, for those people who don't know, it's like a area for press to go and test out a whole bunch of different cars, or indeed to network, and that's what I use it most of the time for. Yeah, effectively, people there were like, "Hey, Chris!" Like it's just like the manufacturers,
Oh,
the
no.
PRs, or these really respected manufacturers are like you're the guy who dances in front of our cars that we get in for, or you get in for review.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I love dancing, and I always
That's
have.
cool.
So yeah.
There you go. That's cool. I was going to ask you, like, with all the cars you reviewed so far, you mentioned about 80 or 90, I think.
Yeah.
If you could, it's quite a hard question to answer, but if you could name one car what's your favourite one that you've had in or reviewed?
Yeah, so I've been asked that quite a lot of times actually, because I've
can
reviewed
imagine.
like a bunch of different cars. And like for example, that like one that might take many by surprise, but like the VW E-Up, I loved it. Like I absolutely loved that car. It was so fun, and funnily enough, when my wife was looking to buy a car, we ended up getting the VW Up, like the regular petrol version. Purely because we didn't have an electric charge point, and the cost of the car was almost 2.5 times more than what the petrol one would be. And yeah, that car, the petrol version, is just as fun. Not as fun as the E-Up, because the E-Up was like instant torque and a lot more nimble. But that was really fun. I've really, really loved that. Honda E, for example, equally really fun car, quirky and stuff. Not a car I would recommend, but one that I've really loved. But the one I would really pick, if I like had to get it in again and be like, I'll keep this for like X amount of months, for example, would probably be the Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo. I just absolutely love that car. Gave it my Best Buy award, and it's not the fact that it's a Porsche. In fact, not so I dislike the fact it's a Porsche, because there's loads of options and like silly things that you have to add on to have like basic features that you get in like 20 grand cars. But it's more the fact that it had that blend of performance. It was a fully electric vehicle, and also it was practical. Like it had the space. It's not a bit compact like the regular Taycan is. So it had the bit of mix of everything. And then, yeah, from there, I would probably go, if I went under that, like the BMW i4. I really love that as well. Funny enough, my friend and my cousin both, my uncle and my friend both bought the i4 after my review, which was awesome. Yeah, I really love that car. If I could afford it again, like that's.
Yeah, it's very understated.
But yeah, in some ways, it's very similar to the regular petrol model.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does tick a lot of boxes. There's certain things I don't like about it, but majority of it is just like, it's really nice. And it's stylish as well. Like that also adds to it. And yeah, also the Tesla Model 3, long range. To be honest, it's quite hard to like pin it down as to what's my favorite. It really depends on terms of like what I was looking for. So if I wanted something with long range, no range anxiety, I'd get a Tesla Model 3 long range, or maybe the Performance, one of those two.
Yep.
And if I wanted something that was like a bit more stylish, feels a bit more snazzy, I had the budget, it would be the Porsche. If I wanted something that did a little bit of everything, and gave me a bit more of that performance edge, but not quite Porsche-like, then I'd go for the BMW. So yeah. There's loads, to be honest with you, but yeah, I would say if I had to pick one, it would be Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo.
A very long-winded answer, but
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's got to get there eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah. You mentioned the Up. I've got the GTI version.
Oh,
and that is
jealous. Okay.
It's so fun.
Oh.
Yeah. Even the standard Up is so fun as well, as you mentioned. But
yeah, but I mean, a GTI. If it made any sort of sense whatsoever, we would have got the GTI. But the GTI was a lot more expensive than the regular Up, and then also fuel economy is not as good as the regular Up.
Uh, Only slightly actually.
Only slightly, really.
I found.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I've had 70 MPG out of it before.
oh wow. Okay, that's really good. Okay.
Yeah, so it's but that was very very concentrated. But yeah, it's somehow it manages to get very good fuel economies. So
Okay, nice. Okay, right. Well, then
yeah,
I retract my statement then. But from when I looked online, it seemed like the average, like the general consensus, and even from Volkswagen's own claims, the MPG,
oh, okay.
well, the GTI was lower than the regular one, which normally is
Hmm.
because you just have either a slightly more like powerful engine, or just
Yep.
the way that the fuel mixture is being done, just because you're
Yeah.
concentrating on performance rather than economy. But yeah,
Yeah.
the GTI, great car.
Yeah. Sadly, it's been discontinued now. So
It has, yeah. I
yep,
actually looked at it just the other day, funnily enough, and I was like, oh, what the hell? But yeah,
it's gone.
yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always ask this question to people. So when people are looking at how people review cars, they're wondering how do they get those cars.
Yeah,
And as we know, we have to contact the manufacturers directly and get press
yeah.
cars. Um, how did you how did you find out that was the? It's quite a if someone's looking to get into reviewing cars,
Yeah.
what was the way that you sort of broke through that barrier to start with, and how did you find out that that was the way to do it?
Yeah, so because I worked at for a startup publication, which worked in
Hmm.
cars, I got a little bit of an idea what manufacturers were looking for. Also, because I had contacts before when I was working at Dennis Publishing, so I went on a few press
Hmm.
trips, um, and they knew who I was, but I
Hmm.
didn't have an established title. So if I was starting out and I didn't have those contacts, so I had no indication, I was just someone completely fresh, or even if I transitioned from tech, for example, to do it, um,
Yep.
it would be hard because I think if I was just starting completely from fresh and I wasn't using leveraging my older, like my other channel or my whatever it might be, um,
Yeah.
you effectively have to build up a portfolio. That's the
Mm.
best way I can explain it. So for me, for Totally EV, was that fact that I wrote a lot of news articles and features. So I built up the website to have a bit more of exposure. I didn't do that for the premise of getting cars. It was just like that was what a publication does. Unfortunately, now I don't even have the time. It's now last news article I wrote was almost 2 years ago. As such, I literally got it out of the website completely. Took it out from the header and all that stuff. Even the tagline when it comes with news. But it's because I just didn't have any time. So um, ultimately, my goal was to actually review cars because that's what I love doing. I just love reviewing stuff. So in order for me to facilitate that, it was like news and features that I had to write and to get to that stage. But if I was just a creator, like a content creator, I would have to either leverage my current brand. So, for example, if I was doing on my tech channel, I would leverage I've got X amount of subscribers, X amount of views. This is what I concentrate on. I would love to review one of your
Hmm.
cars. Um, or if I was going to create a new channel aside from my tech channel, like Totally EV, I would have to be doing stuff that didn't involve a car loan. So I'd be concentrating on stuff that wouldn't involve a car loan. From, for example, even covering news or explaining certain features or reviewing friends' cars, things like that. Like
Hmm.
that's what I would go around, or even bite the bullet and like lease a car for like a month or even like just a week or 2 weeks and review those cars at cost to you. And
Yep.
then over time, once you built up a bit of that portfolio, manufacturers will trust to say, oh yeah, we know, for example, Alex does these type of car reviews, and this is how we're going to proceed with him or her or whatever, however they want to be identified. So um, yeah, so my advice would be to build up a portfolio, and then reach out to manufacturers and make sure if you're going to be in the tech world or the car world, um, be flexible, specifically when you're starting out. So from timings to the product that you're actually getting, even if it's old. So for example, when I started Totally EV, I was reviewing cars that had been out for 1 to 2 years already and being
Hmm.
reviewed. And in a car life cycle, that's actually not long. But for someone who's like trying to be at the forefront of reviewing cars, reviewing a car that's quite a few years old might seem a bit silly, but just see that as building up your portfolio. Um, And equally, for example, when I reviewed the Porsche Taycan or when I reviewed the Bentley Bentayga, those actually didn't do well in views for me. And as a
Hmm.
business, the ROI for me was really bad. Like,
Yeah.
if I had to choose, I would never choose to review those cars ever. But the reason I do is because, again, going based on that like premise of building a portfolio, I've reviewed a car from a Porsche Taycan all the way up to a Carver Electric, which is like a rotating
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
bike. So I've done like a lot of different cars, and it allows me to benchmark. Whereas if I hadn't reviewed a Porsche, I would know what like a top tier electric car would be. Um, so yeah, build your portfolio, and reach out to brands. Understand, and I've only recently tried to recognize this, but try not to take it personally when they reject you. I find it quite hard because I am the brand, so when they're rejecting, like let's say Totally EV or Totally Dubbed, I
Hmm.
feel like, oh, they just don't want to work with me. But sometimes it's actually the fact that they don't have the budget, which I know might sound crazy to a lot of people when they're multi-million or
Yeah.
billion-pound companies. Um, but sometimes they don't have the budget, they don't have the timing, they don't have the car, they don't have the tech product. Could be a variety of reasons. Their strategy is different. They would want to work with an influencer, let's say like Alex, but they don't want to work with a publication which is small, like Totally EV. Could be any
Yeah.
reason, so don't take it at heart when they reject you, and keep on harassing them. Like, just keep at it. Like, every if you don't hear back, chase up in like 2 to 3 weeks time. Set a reminder and just chase up. Create a list on Excel or on like a notepad or whatever, and like write the car companies and say when you've chased them and when you're gonna chase them. And that's what I did. So I just
Yeah.
kept on top of that, and it came to a point where now I've reviewed almost every manufacturer's car, as in like in the EV space.
Oh no. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
every single one, but pretty much every brand I've worked with in some sort of capacity. Um,
That's cool.
so yeah, just keep at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you bit about the mention about the news. So I've been doing the interface website. It had an old name previously, but for 10 years now. And I noticed whenever I do, so I've done reviewed 2 cars now, and whenever I dedicate a week to that car, the news section of the website takes a backseat,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, how have I got the time to do this? So it's never something I want to stop doing, the news part of the website, because it's such a big part of it. But yeah, I can appreciate that. Oh, I haven't got any time to do this now.
Yeah, the problem with me is the fact that I basically run two full-time businesses. It's the
Yeah.
tech side and the car side. If I was doing only one, I could dedicate more time. So, for example, on the tech side, I could push out 3, maybe 4 videos a week if I
Hmm.
didn't have the cars. If I didn't have the tech, I could push out news article and features, and I could actually do maybe a car every week, what I used to do. But now I do every car every week and a half to 2 weeks, purely because of timing. And again, I'm not covering any news and features. Um, in an ideal world, I would earn enough money and I'll employ someone to actually do
Hmm.
that. And that would be like a dream for me to have someone work with me. That would be amazing.
Hmm.
But yeah, having that to get to that stage is quite hard. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, why are you doing it, right? So there's a lot of publications out there, like not from creators, but publications, that their goal is purely profit. So they want to build up a publication so that either they can sell it or that they can effectively appeal to advertisers to get money, to keep
Hmm.
themselves afloat or to have any sort of profit. And if they don't, if they incur recurring losses, then they're just gonna axe the publication. And funnily enough, this is really random, but I was at Goodwood, and it was the media day, and I was talking to a guy from Ferrari, and he was just like, "Oh, are you just going to be one of those website that comes and goes just like that?" Which is really blunt, but I appreciated like the bluntness of
Yeah.
it. And I said, well, funnily enough, I've been doing tech reviews as a hobby for over 15 years. And I created Totally EV purely because I've got a passion for cars rather than the fact that I'm treating it as a business. And while I do make
Yeah.
money from it, it's not a massive amount of money. It's
Hmm.
enough money for me to pay my rent and my bills. And if I can do that and do my hobby, which is my like childhood hobbies and like passions, then I love it. And the way he just looked at me after that was just like, okay, cool. Like, you're not someone who's just gonna like disintegrate after like a year or so. Um, or should I say dissolve, disintegrate? I'm not exactly Thanos, am I? But yeah, yeah. So it is. yeah, for me, like, it was just my passion, right? So I just love what I'm doing. And that's something that I think creators have as like a selling point over
Mm,
regular publications, because usually creators do it because they love what they're doing. And then when it becomes more than a hobby and it becomes a business or whatever, then that's when it really becomes like something that they can use as like a viable source of income. Um,
yeah.
so to get to that stage, which took me a long time for a multitude of reasons, um, it was just such a blessing, because now I'm like fully self-employed. I can get my own income, but now I can still do the things I absolutely love doing. Um, so yeah, I think, yeah, it's quite hard, but as creators, I think if you can try and find that blend between having a business and then having that hobby, then you can actually do what you love effectively.
Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting that someone would be that blunt, but
Yeah,
I, I suppose it's just there's quite a lot of websites which have come and gone. I mean, like, um, I can't remember the name of it. There was a really quite popular YouTube channel that just ran out of money essentially.
yeah.
I think it was
Like,
I think Henry Catchpole was one of the presenters on it.
was it
But they
is it Car Throttle, or is that, am I wrong in saying
no,
that?
that's still going, that one. I
Okay,
can't remember the name of it. But
someone,
anyway, there was
yeah,
it was quite a big YouTube channel that every single video they made was like a TV show. Basically, it was the quality of it. They just said we've run out of money now, and that was it.
that's it. Yeah, so that,
Yeah,
that's the sad thing. Like, it can happen to creators, but those are like businesses. And I think, I remember you said, before, like, you will be talking about, like, for example, advice you can give to creators and stuff like that. But
yeah,
the biggest thing for me is like, it's not a one size fits all. Don't get me wrong, but
no,
if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
If I put the same amount of time and energy I put in to my current job, or jobs, shall I say, and put that in any sort of job, like, it doesn't matter what it could be. It can be from, not disrespecting anyone. It could be like, I don't know, building a headphone, to working in a warehouse, to packing bags, to literally anything you can think of. If I put the same amount of hours, and let alone the knowledge, I'd be on serious money.
yeah,
At least I think I would be, and I know that because I used to work, well, for just a year. I worked in a financial district, so I was just like, there's a lot of money there that can be had. Um, but yeah, if you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reason. You should do it for the passion of what you want, and ultimately, try and think of like how you want to present yourself to the world, and in turn to brands who might want to work with you, be it in editorial sense or advertorial sense. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but yeah, it's a lot of people, I think, try and do it for the money, or people who've done it for the hobby then do it as a business, and because the business pressures are too much, they're thinking of it as a business. Like, this is really random. It came up on my Twitter. I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but came up on my Twitter timeline. I don't know why. I don't even follow the person, but it was like a lady who was doing, like, she was like an Overwatch player or something like that, and she did loads of content creation on Twitch. And she was just like, yeah, after 6 years of doing Twitch streaming, I've decided to call it quits. It's my last Twitch stream, and I'm going to be a software engineer or something like that. I don't know who this
okay,
person is, by the way. It came up on my
yeah,
timeline, and I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
why I looked into it, because I just found it fascinating that someone with like 40, 50K Twitter followers is leaving their platform
yeah.
to do a regular job, right?
Mhm.
And it's, for me also, it's not say interesting, but it's also something that you have to consider, because maybe one day that'll happen to me, but I never will want that ever to happen, and I'll never want to go into a normal job. So it's just interesting to see that someone so successful, or so seemingly so successful, would quit their platforms to do a regular job. But it's probably because they'll have more stability and better pay and benefits and all that stuff. And yeah, they're still doing something that they love, but maybe not their core passion. But I literally have no
Mhm.
idea who this person is. I literally came up on my Twitter timeline, or X timeline, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's yeah, it can be quite tough in that respect, for people to actually think, specifically nowadays when there's a lot of competition on YouTube, how can I make myself stand out in comparison to the rest? And how can I get products, going based on your previous question,
Yeah,
which would then allow me to grow even further? And how would I get newer products if I'm not there yet? Because it's a newer product that get better views and engagement and all that stuff. So yeah, anyway.
yeah, yeah. Just talk about the sort of money side of it. The interface is definitely a hobby side. It's like a side thing I'm doing for my day job, and it's only just started breaking even after 10 years.
Wow, there you go.
Last year, I think it started breaking even. So
there you go. And that's I don't know if you're, in terms of your breaking even, are you considering your time?
No.
So you're probably far off
Yeah.
getting breaking even. It's the same with
Yeah.
me. You don't consider time, because it's like you're doing it as like a passion as well. But yeah, it is. Yeah, if you did consider your time, then as I've said before, find any other job and you'll be way more successful in terms of like pay wise, monetary sense, but maybe not in terms of the passion sense. So yeah,
definitely. I think that's a good place to end, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for having
That's
me
right.
and hearing me ramble, basically.
Thanks for joining me on the Creator Spotlight, Chris. It's been really good to talk to you. I met you a few times in person, so it's good to have you on the podcast to talk about what you do. If people want to find out more about what you make and do online, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, sure. So if you're interested in tech, look for Totally Dubbed HD. That'll be on YouTube. You can find me on all the social media platforms, but YouTube is the most important one. And then for cars, if you're interested in electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids, and want to see detailed reviews of audio systems and the vehicles themselves, then check out Totally EV.
All the links to Chris's channels and websites will be in the links down below. If you want to find more information about the interface, have a look at interface.uk. Also follow us on YouTube and X as well. Thanks for listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube. Hit subscribe and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks.
Thank you.